Yeah, so there are a bunch of companies that are already playing some role in this segment. I think the bigger ones are Seniority, that does about 34 crores in revenue. And all they do is just focus on these elder care products. So adult diapers is one of those, but it's an e-commerce play on just focused on senior citizen products, right? So right from all the safety equipments that they might need, all the healthcare stuff that they might need, and a bunch of other things. So that's the e-commerce play. Then there's Portia, which is not necessarily just for senior citizens, but a lot of their sub-segments are focused on senior citizens. Portia is basically a home care company. So they give you people to take care of, like, somebody in your family needs help, needs some care. They'll send nurses and stuff like that.
That was actually going to be one of my first when you started talking about this subject, that was one of the first things that came to my mind is nursing, because I've so many times I've gotten messages from people being like, hey, we need a good nurse that to take care of our grandfather or whatever, because that is a huge urgent need, because senior care can take up a lot of time from people's lives. Like if you don't have a nurse and you're taking care of a senior person yourself, it can take up a lot of time. And this is something that probably, as people start working more and they can't take care of their grandfather, or earlier it used to be the woman in the house, the bahu, who take care of these senior people. But as the bahu also needs to work now, I think a significant amount of money is going to move towards that segment of the market.
Yeah, I 100% agree. The other thing about the senior citizen care is not just the time, but oftentimes you don't even know what to do because you're doing this the first time and you're not trained to do a lot of these things, right? So somebody who's maybe going through depression, somebody who's going through some mental ailment, you don't even know how to deal with this. And it can be, as a caregiver, it can be extremely frustrating. And this is a personal experience. My father dealt with depression and my mother had a very hard time just figuring that out. So I've seen it firsthand. And if having someone who's an expert who can help with this goes a long way. So that's the other one. These are the two big ones, honestly. There are a few others that I think are on the cusp of explosion, right? There's something called as Emoha, which is a community play, which is basically getting these senior citizens together in a community, right?
Laughing clubs. Laughing clubs have already done this.
Yeah, so laughing clubs are the first step to the community aspect. But what Emoha is doing, I think, is depending on your interest areas, depending on where you live, and depending on your curiosities, they are building community groups and then doing workshops, events, and whatnot, right? They do about 4 crores in revenue. I think that 2021 is going to be much more than 4 crores.
I mean, my question here is, how are they so different from laughing clubs? Because if you say, oh, it's all digital, the thing is that this is the segment of the market that is not as digital as the younger group. So how is Emoha doing this differently than a laughing club?
See, here's the thing with most of the older communities. When I say older communities, the communities that have happened so far have been completely location dependent. Depending on the colony and society that you're living in, you're going to be connected to the people who are living in that society. Now, that's not the best way to build a community. Just because I'm living in an apartment complex doesn't necessarily mean that I will vibe with the people who live in that apartment complex, right? It needs to be more depending on interest areas, depending on what you like and the kind of people that you like. I think that's what Emoha is bringing to the table by saying that find like-minded individuals of your same age group so that you form a community and build a bond. Yeah.
But sorry, but Emoha is doing this online.
Yes, it's an online play.
Okay, because I mean, again, like going back to it, like digital won't be as much of an attraction to.
I don't necessarily agree. I think what COVID has taught a lot of these senior citizens, and over the last 3-4 years, every senior citizen now has a smartphone. I'm not talking 70 plus, but maybe looking at people who are 55, 60 today, all of them know how to use a smartphone, right? They're already using WhatsApp. They're already forwarding a bunch of videos on WhatsApp. So, I mean, they're fairly aware of how to use these technologies. I think that's the biggest roadblock that people have in their minds, that this segment is not very attuned to technology. I think that's not the case anymore. And especially not the case 5 years down the line. This is definitely not going to be a problem, right? So if you're going to be starting up right now, you're probably going to hit the inflection point 3-4 years down the line. And by then, this technology problem is not going to be there. You can't make them wear an Oculus and do VR and stuff like that, but basic smartphone technology, I think they'll be fairly comfortable with.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen 80 plus really struggles with smartphones. In fact, okay, I'm not going to say this story, it's a bit embarrassing, but yeah. But I agree with you that like people who are 60 now they know how to use smartphones really well.
Exactly, right? And they
yeah.
sort of comprise that senior citizen market that's going to be spending and stuff like that. 80, your needs are fairly limited. It's probably more healthcare than community, right? So there are companies that are trying to do that already. There are a couple of companies that I want to mention about in India that are doing some interesting work. So there's something called as Khyal, Khyal. So basically, you probably won't understand what this means, Sahil.
I know what Khyal means.
I mean, like, a South Bombay kid.
To take care of somebody.
A South Bombay kid.
To take care of somebody.
Yeah. Anyway, so Khyal is interesting. I think they have a subscription, and this is primarily, I think, targeted to people who are either NRIs or living outside of, where the parents are living. And they have things like, they take a package which is, I think, 1,000 rupees a month or 2,000 rupees a month, depending on packages you take. Somebody helps you with bill payments, online ordering, home maintenance, emotional care. They have like workshops. They teach you how to use some of these technologies. There's digital literacy program. There's medical care. Bunch of things part of a subscription package. Basically, they're appointing someone to take care of your parents if you're living outside of your hometown. I think that's a interesting business, probably started in 2020. So it'll be interesting to see what they do and the kind of capital that they raise to scale this. There's another company called Goodfellows, and this was in the news very recently because the personal assistant of Ratan Tata started this company called Goodfellows, and that makes for perfect news material according to business media, where like every publication had this, Ratan Tata's personal assistant started a new company for elderly and stuff like that. Goodfellows, for lack of a better word, is on-demand grandkids. There is a company in the US called Papa, PAPA, Join Papa. They've raised $240 million. They do about $30 to $40 million in revenue. I couldn't find the exact numbers. And all they do is on-demand pals or grandkids. So these elderly people have a bunch of needs. It could be groceries, it could be something else, it could be teaching them about a new technology, it could be whatever, right? They have to pay $15 an hour if you want to do on demand, or you can take a subscription which is $15 a month, plus you still have to pay that $15 an hour, but you get extra services in that subscription. Basically, grandkids on demand. These are really young folks, 20, 21, who are helping these elderly people. And I think this is a brilliant match because these people earn money and they obviously need that money. And obviously the elderly get access to, people who are young, and it can keep them entertained, for lack of a better word, and get a lot of stuff done. Yeah.
My question about Goodfellows is, has Ratan Tata invested in it?
I have no idea. I'm assuming he would have, right?
And does he use Goodfellows to find people to...
Goodfellows hasn't launched publicly yet. It's still in beta. So I'm sure Ratan Tata is one of the beta users there.
I'm just imagining like somebody getting a booking from Goodfellows is some like 20-year-old guy and like just showing up and it's like, oh shit, it's Ratan Tata. I have to help Ratan Tata.
So this personal assistant, by the way, is a 25-year-old kid. So Ratan Tata. So maybe he was already the good fellow and that's where the idea came from, right? You never know.